Welcome to Aquatic Biology. Today, we're going to dive deep into the fascinating world of lake ecosystems. For anyone studying zoology, understanding these freshwater habitats is absolutely essential. We will explore not just the living organisms that call these waters home, but also the mathematical principles that govern their survival and health. By the end of this lecture, you will see lakes not just as bodies of water, but as complex, bustling underwater cities. To begin our journey, I want you to imagine a bustling, self-sustaining city, but one that is completely submerged underwater. In this aquatic city, the sun acts as the ultimate power plant, beaming energy down from above. This energy is captured by tiny green algae floating near the surface, which act as the city's factories. The citizens of this city are incredibly diverse. They range from microscopic zooplankton that graze on the algae all the way up to large predatory fish that patrol the deeper, darker neighborhoods. Just like a human city, a lake has distinct zones where different organisms live, work, and recycle nutrients to keep the ecosystem thriving. Now that we have pictured this underwater city, let us define it in scientific terms. A lake is a specific type of lentic ecosystem, which simply means it is characterized by standing or still freshwater, unlike a flowing river. Every lake ecosystem is built on two main interacting components. First is the biotic, or living community. This includes the producers, like algae, consumers, like fish, and decomposers, like bacteria at the bottom. Second is the abiotic, or non-living environment. This includes critical physical factors, such as water chemistry, light penetration, and temperature. Because the water is relatively still, lakes develop distinct vertical layers, creating a closed loop of energy flow and nutrient cycling. Understanding these components leads us to ask, why should we care deeply about lake ecosystems? First and foremost, lakes are crucial reservoirs of accessible freshwater. This water is absolutely essential for human survival, agriculture, and industry. Beyond drinking water, lakes act as massive thermal sponges. They absorb heat during the summer and slowly release it during the winter, which helps regulate local climates. Furthermore, they are incredible hotspots for biodiversity, providing unique habitats for thousands of species that cannot survive anywhere else. If we fail to understand and protect these ecosystems, we risk destroying them through pollution and overfishing, which can lead to toxic algae blooms and the collapse of local economies. To truly grasp how these components interact, let us look at a visual representation of a lake structure. What you are seeing here is a cross-section of a lake, divided into distinct zones based on distance from the shore and depth. Near the shore, we have the littoral zone, where sunlight reaches the bottom, allowing aquatic plants to grow. Moving outward, the open, sunlit surface water is the limnetic zone, dominated by floating algae and active fish. Beneath that lies the dark, profundal zone, where sunlight cannot reach. Finally, at the very bottom, we have the benthic zone, a layer of sediment where decomposers break down organic matter. Each zone hosts a unique biological community. Now that we have mapped out where life exists in the lake, we must understand how it survives. To truly understand a lake ecosystem, we must measure how much biological energy it produces. The foundation of all life here is the energy captured by algae and plants through photosynthesis. We call the total amount of energy captured the gross primary productivity. However, plants are living things too. They must use some of this captured energy to survive, grow, and reproduce, a process called respiration. The energy that is actually left over after the plants have fed themselves is called net primary productivity. This leftover energy is what sustains the rest of the food web, like fish and insects. This balance of energy creation and consumption brings us to our first mathematical relationship. The formula is quite intuitive. NPP equals GPP minus R. Conceptually, this tells us that the actual food available for the lake's animals is simply the total food produced minus the food the plants eat themselves. Let us break down the symbols. NPP stands for net primary productivity, usually measured in grams of carbon per square meter per year. GPP is the gross primary productivity, representing the total solar energy converted into chemical energy. Finally, R represents respiration, the energy the plants consume. If GPP increases due to more sunlight, NPP increases, supporting more fish. If R increases because warm water stresses the plants, NPP drops, leaving less energy for the ecosystem. Before we move on, let us see this productivity formula in action with a concrete example. Imagine biologists are studying a small, clear water lake to determine how much fish it can support. They measure that the algae produce a total of 150 grams of carbon per square meter per year. This is our GPP. They also find the algae consume 60 grams of carbon per square meter per year for their own survival. This is our R. We are asked to find the net primary productivity. We choose our formula, NPP equals GPP minus R, because it directly relates these quantities. Substituting the values, we subtract 60 from 150. This gives us a final answer of 90. Physically, this means 90 grams of organic carbon are available as food for consumers every year. If this number dropped to 0, the lake could not support any animal life. While energy flows through the biological community, we must also consider the physical water itself. Another critical concept for lake ecosystems is how quickly the lake flushes out its water. Because lakes are relatively still bodies of water, pollutants and excess nutrients can build up very easily. To understand this vulnerability, we measure the residence time. The residence time tells us exactly how long a single drop of water, or a drop of pollution, stays in the lake before it flows out through a river or evaporates. We calculate this important metric by looking at two physical properties: the total size or volume of the lake, and how fast new, fresh water is entering it. This concept of water turnover can be expressed with a very straightforward equation. The formula is T sub R equals V divided by Q. Conceptually, this states that the time it takes to completely replace the lake's water is the total volume divided by the rate at which new water flows in. Looking at the symbols, T sub R represents the residence time, typically measured in years. V stands for the total volume of the lake in cubic meters. Q represents the volumetric flow rate of water entering the lake, measured in cubic meters per year. If the volume V is very large, the residence time increases, meaning the lake takes a long time to flush out pollutants. Conversely, if the inflow Q increases due to heavy rainfall, the residence time decreases, helping to clean the lake faster. Let us apply this residence time formula to a real-world environmental scenario. Consider a situation where an industrial plant has accidentally spilled a cloudy dye into a large lake. The community wants to know how long it will take for the lake to naturally flush this dye out. We are given a massive total lake volume of 5 million cubic meters. This is our V. A river flows in, bringing fresh water at a rate of 1 million cubic meters per year. This is our Q. We need to find the residence time. We use the formula T sub R equals V divided by Q. Plugging in our numbers, we divide 5 million by 1 million. The math is simple, yielding a final answer of 5. Physically, this means it will take approximately 5 years for the lake to completely replace its water and flush out the dye, highlighting why lake pollution is so dangerous. Having explored both the biological and physical dynamics, let us bring everything together. First, we learned that a lake ecosystem is a complex standing water environment where sunlight and water chemistry dictate the survival of a diverse biological community across distinct zones. Second, we saw how energy flows through this system and how net primary productivity determines exactly how much energy is available to sustain fish and other consumers. Finally, we discovered that physical properties like volume and inflow determine the residence time, which dictates how long pollutants remain trapped. By mastering these foundational concepts, you have taken the first step toward becoming a true guardian of our planet's precious aquatic biomes.